Peace, family. So I'm back with another one. Today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to my chosen ones about how we need more warriors, but more warriors are still peaceful. And it's also a statement that I've heard along the way too, which has been really, really awkward, and I also needed to address that out in the air too as well. You know, we need more warriors. Yes, we do need more warriors. And understanding that we need warriors, right? We need more warriors as in men warriors who can lead, and our female warriors who can follow and lead in their department. We don't need a bunch of Xenas out here. And we don't need a bunch of kamikaze loose men out here who's trying to be warriors, which basically is another form of gang banging, which a lot of us have, you know, partaken in. So I've been in this space where, like, I've been fighting physically I ain't gonna say my whole life, but the first portion of my life, you know what I'm saying? The first portion of my life would be like 15, 16 years old. Fighting. I did a lot of physical fighting. 10, 11, and to 5 to 6 to 11, that probably was my most influential fighting time of my life, because some days I would be in 2-3 fights a day. And the thing with me, with fighting and being a warrior, that goes hand to hand. Fighting is a physical form of warring, but then you also have the spiritual form of warring. So trying to get to a space to where we can sync men back to men, women back to women, and still be able to fight, defend, and protect over here, and still be able to be peaceful beings while actually being warriors. So for me, it's always weird when somebody is talking to me about being a warrior or a fighter, because that's what I've been doing my whole life. I've been doing that my entire life. It just transitioned to the spiritual battle. So it's kind of like somebody who hasn't been cooking their whole life and they come to a chef telling them how to cook, or somebody who don't know how to fix cars trying to tell a mechanic how to fix cars. So because I've been doing it so long, I don't get offended by it. It puts me more of an enlightened space, and I understand the anger that some beings are experiencing due to everything that's happening right now. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants somebody to do something. You know, it seems like we got more talkers going on. Like, for example, what I'm doing right now, for me in my life, in the way I've already experienced so many physical fighting, this, for me, isn't a form of just talking. This has multiple components. And with me understanding these things, I never took this space that I do as just a talking point, but I also understand that there are beings who manipulate this space, which a lot of spaces get manipulated, and they turn it into where it's just solely all talking. So if it's solely all talking, then it becomes a diluted space. Once it becomes a diluted space, then that makes it harder for you to actually use this space as something you can collaborate to do something with. So kind of like how they showed us in the movies, there's another plane coming, we're gonna keep rocking out because they're going back to back. So it's kind of like how in the movies, and they showed us with slavery, blah, 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 whatever, that you have how people congregated to the churches, and then they would do their spiritual thing, and then from the spiritual thing, they would bump over to talking about the community and what they're gonna organize and what they're gonna do. And they actually took the steps from there. So if they showed us that in the movies, because I wasn't here in slavery time to really understand if that was going on or not, and I know that my peoples wasn't connected to it, you know, it was a way of life and working. So my grandmother did touch a cotton field, but she chose to work there, and then she chose to leave. It wasn't anything that was forced by slavery. But understanding that warriors are peaceful too. You know, we don't sit around and we just fight even when there's not anything going on. So it gets a little weird and confusing when some of the women that's in their masculine energy and they understand that we at war, and then they're telling people or telling men that they need to be more warriors and we need less peace. But it's like, I don't want to be warring inside my house. I'll war outside of my house. Inside my space, I want it to be as peaceful as possible. And if I wanted it to be more peaceful, I would remove all the technologies that we have around. But because I can understand these things and I operate on a much higher level, that I can maneuver around that space and I can keep the technologies. I understand how to turn them off. I know that they still listen to me even when they're not on. So to get to the deeper root, if you really wanted to get rid of all of that stuff, you had to remove yourself from the whole thing all the way around the board. But the thing with that is we all using technology, so I would never look at technology as if it's the bad guy. I look at the beings using it, you know, and the beings who, if they so created a piece of technology that was going to be used in that form, then I would look at them as the bad being. I wouldn't say the gun is bad, but there are a lot of warriors out here that are peaceful. Peace and warring are not counterintuitive to each other. That's not one of those things where it's like, oh, well, you can't have peace if you warn, because you can have peace if you warn. You war until it's finished, and then it's back to a peaceful state. Even if you have all the troops in the world, you're still only warring until the troops are burnt out, done, dispersed, gone to their next journey, and then that's when you still transition over to peace. You know, so it all depends on which space you're in. But it's a lot of beings who's looking for warriors, and you got to understand it's not about just the information you taking. You got to look at the steps that they taking behind, or how they walk in their life. Are they trying to take more steps? Some of us don't have the resources to be doing what some of the other beings doing, but a lot of other beings are just jumping into spaces just to create more talking points. Nobody gives a fuck about talking points. We already understand all the talking points. Right now, what we're trying to do is keep this awareness level high, and we want to start transforming the real lifetime around us. Meaning that if somebody like 19 Keys is out here sitting around, got 1 million subscribers now, then he should be talking about how he has land in a community and pulling people over. Why would people just be tapping in? That's what I'd be like, it's a lot of agents out here that they just put out there. And once you understand that if you pass a certain threshold, you should be getting to the land and setting all these other things up for your community, the community, the tribe, however it's supposed to be. But if people just out here creating talking points, then these people are not really warriors. These people are not really trying to be out here in this field. So those are the people that will have to be addressed as far as not being warriors. But the real warriors are transitioning. We understand we're in a dimension at a time where you have to know how to use your full masculine, you have to know your femininity, you have to be able to correlate them two together, you be able to dip in, dip out the matrix. It's multiple things that we are actually experiencing, which is making us like, it's pushing us to another level when it comes to this concept of being a warrior, spiritual warrior, a fighter, and all of these other things above. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you got, I'm a present father, right? But I got the mom on the other side who's constantly doing things to try to remove me, even though I'm present, and I know other beings who don't have the same process to go through. So for me, that doesn't have to be televised, but that's part of the war and that's part of the battle. You know what I'm saying? I could easily cop out and be like the rest of the guys out here who just, I know somebody who signed over their rights and allowed somebody else to be the stepfather to theirs. You know, just because of they didn't want to fight, they didn't want to war, they didn't have it in them to do better for the next generation. And for me, I don't care it that way. It's like, you're gonna have to burn me out till the wheels gone, because I'm a warrior. That's what I've always been. Always been here moving as righteously as I could. Even when I did shit that wasn't righteously, the Creator got at me right away. Trust and believe. I got at it right away. That took care of me, and I had to pay immediately. When we do things The Creator makes sure we pay right away. We don't have to wait because we have a purpose. So ours is not going to be prolonged. It's going to be, hey, it's like when you do something in front of your mom and they whip your ass right away. They don't wait till later. That's like how ours is. You do something, you pay for it right away because you have to get back in line to finish your job. We have a job and a purpose to do. The people who can do that stuff and get away with it, they working with the other team. Their stuff is getting prolonged a little bit longer, so it looks as though they aren't, you know, having any consequences for these things. But all of these things happen, you know what I mean? But we are warriors at heart, you know what I'm saying? And we are still peaceful at the same time. That will never take away from us being peace. A lot of us war for our peace, you know what I mean? So if those things are intertwined together, then you have to understand that even me doing this right now is part of warring and it's part of me being peaceful. Everything is at a percentage level. So once you understand the different levels and depths that this thing happens and it comes on, it makes it much easier for you to manage, you know what I mean? But I ain't want to run up too long, you know what I'm saying? We do need warriors. It is a lot of warriors out here fighting, and it's a lot of warriors that's in the process of getting silenced and still fighting through that silence and those brick walls. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna be out here in the Matrix thinking you just gonna be a superhero and a good warrior for the good team and not face no trials and tribulations and not have them at your head, at your door, at your family, you know what I'm saying, at the ones around you, at your locations and vicinity. That's how it's going down, you know what I mean? But tapping everything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.